Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first Instagram Live. We're just waiting for our guest, Claudio, to join us. And let me get him started here. Here we go. Great. Just waiting for him to join us. There he is.
We good?
Welcome, Claudio.
Thanks for having me. Gonna get that right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Connection's great. So
Awesome.
I want to welcome everyone to our first Instagram Live from Manfredi Jewels here in Greenwich, Connecticut. I'm Rob Weintraub, the manager of the store. I've been here for a little over 15 years. And I'd like to introduce Claudio Terjanian, who is the U.S. brand manager for Jaquet Droz. Welcome, Claudio.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and it's a nice continuation. I think the last time I saw you was right before the pandemic, became a pandemic. I remember I was watching the NBA the night before, and the game was canceled, and Adam Silver canceled the season, and all of a sudden I said, okay, well, I'm still going to come down and see my friends in Greenwich. I came to your store, and there was something in the air, but it's good to know 3 months later, things are starting to look good again. I think you guys have been open for a couple weeks now in Connecticut.
Yeah, we reopened on the 20th, and thankfully it's been going well. Everybody's wearing masks when they come into the store. We are wearing our masks all around the store here, obviously not for the purposes of this video. And there's hand sanitizer everywhere. We're cleaning and disinfecting everything, and we're staying to the guidelines. So thankfully it's been going great. There's no issue. So Claudio, you and I have a long history of working in this business since I started at Manfredi over 14 years ago. But you have a special connection here with Manfredi Jewels. Can you share that with us?
Sure. So aside from working with you and Manfredi Jewels on and off for almost 17 years, I met Roberto, who's the owner and the founder of Manfredi Jewels, because I lived in Forest Hills in New York, and his family has a restaurant there. So I think I had my 14th birthday there, and being an Italian, half Italian, you don't eat Italian outside unless it's a really great Italian restaurant. So we would my mom approved of his restaurant, and we became friends, and fast forward 10 years later, I'm in the watch business, and fast forward even further, and I'm lucky enough and fortunate enough to work with one of the best jewelers, and probably one of the most iconic stores and figures in the watch industry. Roberto, before watches became sort of a household, everybody needs to have a watch. He was carrying so many brands, and thankfully we carrying Jaquet Droz. So it's good to be working with one of the best in the business, and also I've known you for quite a long time, so it's great to actually be working with you again.
Thank you. Yeah, agreed. And so that's the thing. When you first called us to tell us that you had joined Jaquet Droz, I could hear the excitement in your voice, and it was really fantastic. And that's one of the reasons why I thought of you. You would be a perfect first guest for our first Instagram Live. And so can you share with us a little bit, maybe your journey to work with Jaquet Droz, and why you're so passionate about the brand? There's a lot of different places where people can work in this industry, especially somebody like you who has the great history that you do. So why Jaquet Droz for you?
Where do I start, right? There's, do you have an hour? No. So, the brand Jaquet Droz is, we could talk a little bit about the history, which I'll love to get into in a little while. But, there's something really nice to be working for a very small and exclusive brand like Jaquet Droz. In terms of watches, I can't give you an actual number because, they change. But we're talking about, just a couple of thousand watches a year for the world. So when you put that in context, and if you think about how many watches are actually making it to the United States, the watch that's on your wrist or that's on my wrist might be the only one in the entire country. So there's something to be said about working for a brand that is as exclusive as we are, but also has a rich history and and mixes art into watchmaking. And we'll talk a little bit about that later, but you hear that all so often. It's like a piece of art on your wrist, and many of our watches really can be hung in a museum because they're that beautiful, they're that impressive.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I remember hearing, I mean, you're looking at between 100 and 150 watches coming to North America each year, basically, right? So it's incredibly limited what they do.
Yeah, hopefully a lot more this year and next year. I mean, that's one of the reasons I joined was I want to be able to show this brand and make sure that we try to get on a lot of risks, because there's so much competition out there. And I think that when you have such a small brand like we have, there needs to be a lot of education. We need to be able to present the watches. You need to see the timepieces in person, and because we have such a limited distribution, it's hard to see them. So anybody who's watching right now, I urge you to go to our website, jaquetdroz.com. Also, if you're on Instagram, obviously check out some of the watches, but most importantly, get to Greenwich, get to the store, and look at the watches in person, because they're so much more impressive in person. Even though the pictures are pretty spectacular, I think you have it's one of those things you have to get the watch on your wrist.
No, I definitely agree, but and that's modern Jaquet Droz, but also getting into the history of the brand a little bit. And again, we could spend a really long time, but I'd like to go over just a little bit of some of the highlights that you'd like to share with us about the history of the brand.
What, as Sina Jules, I'm seeing some comments pop up. She says she or he or love the red gold skeleton one. Well, since we're on the subject, let's talk about the skeleton one. Actually, today what I'm wearing, and when I joined the company, this piece stood out to me right away, and the first thing that I was thinking about was, when can I get this? So it's a 41 millimeter Grenzicon skeletonized movement. It's an automatic. What I really also love about the watch, and I think power reserve is one of those things that we take for granted. This is a 68-hour power reserve watch, so you could put the watch down and pick it up several days later, and it's still ticking. It's elegant, but it's sporty. The bottom line is, what they do, what Jaquet Droz does is, they made something. I mean, this is a home run. So if you haven't seen the skeleton one, I think Manfredi has a couple. If you ever see me, stop me, and I'll be happy to show you the watch on my wrist. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I see some other people say, do you have another, asking specifically me, do you have any of the skeleton of the 41 millimeter pieces in stock? And we will talk about it in a little while. But yes, we do have the skeleton one in both red gold and in ceramic here in the store.
So Instagram Live is live, but it's also, it's an opportunity for people who maybe missed this live viewing to be able to take a look and watch this video later. So for the people who are watching now, stay on this live page, but I definitely recommend you to go take a look at the jaquetdroz.com and explore a little bit about this wonderful company. I mean, one thing that I'd like to kind of just go over is the history. Pierre Jaquet Droz was born in the 18th century in 1721. The company was actually formed officially in 1738. So, we're almost a 300-year-old company. There's some really great stories. One of it is in 1758, Pierre Jaquet Droz gets on a horse and carriage and decides to take 6 clocks because he wants to sell. He wants to show them to Ferdinand the Sixth, the King of Spain. So he gets on this, and he waits several months just to be able to have the chance to show him these clocks. And of course, he was rewarded with his with these with these beautiful creations, all of which you can see on our website. And he was given 2,000 gold pistols. So those pistols were actually what funded Jaquet Droz going forward. And then he had his son join the company, and he also had an adoptive son who Jean-Frédéric Lechaud, who basically joined Jaquet Droz. So it was a 3-person operation, and then they started to grow. They started to evolve. In 1774, they opened up a workshop in London. In 1775, which is a year before the Declaration of Independence, they came out with the automatons, which you have a great story. And I actually was able to see when I was in Switzerland, in Neuchâtel. I actually have the pamphlet. So if anybody is ever in Neuchâtel and you want to see the automatons live, I definitely suggest that you check it out. You have the writer, the draftsman, and the musician, and it is something that is very impressive. Well ahead of the times. We made jokes earlier saying that he may have taken a time machine to come back into the past to create these things, because how they were able to design these mechanical marvels without computer-aided designs, just basically off of sketches, and having the mental capacity to think of it was quite impressive. So you said that you've actually visited yourself.
Yeah, it was just serendipitous. I was visiting Switzerland. I brought some clients over to visit some different manufacturers, and that day we were just touring around Neuchâtel, and we just walked into the museum, and it happened to be they show them. They have them there on display all the time, but one Sunday a month, they actually have somebody give a demonstration, and they still work. It's incredible from that long ago that they've maintained them, and they are still working automatons. So I actually got to see them live and see them working and have them explain to us. And I mean, it was mind blowing, because to see these things, and they're very lifelike, scarily so.
Yeah.
And so to think back at that time in the world where nothing like this had ever been done before, and I believe that people thought that he could have been a witch, because he basically bewitched these things to move like humans. And so to see it in person was like mind-blowing, and it was just amazing that I was able to be there at the right time to be able to see it. So it was a really incredible experience for sure.
And to think of it, I mean, he wasn't just they weren't just watchmakers, right? They worked on mechanical objects. If you look at the charming bird of today, it goes back to the 18th century, where he was using these charming birds in cages where look, there was no internet, there was no Instagram, people didn't watch Netflix. Like, this is how they entertained themselves.
Yeah.
So how he pulled it off, how the Jaquet Droz family pulled off such unbelievable creations in such a short span of their lives without modern technology, it's quite impressive. Also just the way that they developed their business, how they went to London, how they went to Geneva, how they set up workshops, how even in 1779 Pierre Jaquet Droz enters the Forbidden City in Beijing and presents some of his works to the emperor, and you can still see that today. In 1785 he came out with the 54 millimeter pocket watch, which is today's Grand Second. 1790 was, unfortunately, he, and shortly after, his son passed away, so the brand sort of died then. And it wasn't until 2000 when the Hayek family seized this opportunity to build this brand and start it all over. So in 2000, the brand was actually acquired by the Swatch Group. 2010, they opened the manufacturer, which is such a beautiful facility, very modern, beautiful, elegant, and you can see, you know, what Jaquet Droz does, whether it's the enamel dials or some of the high complications like the bird repeaters or the charming bird. And these are some of the pieces that we could dedicate an entire show to. So if there's anybody in the audience that has you know, would like to see some of these pieces, please reach out to Rob, and you know, I'll make sure that we could get some pieces to come over there, because they're too impressive to just, you know, look at pictures of. When you see them in person, I think you think, wow, how did they do this? And you know, my mind is blown every day. In 2012, which was actually when they came out with the bird repeater. 2015 was a special year. They came out with the charming bird, and that won the Grand Prix d'Horlogerie de Genève, which was a mechanical exception. And when you take a look at the way that they made that watch and how a tiny bird inside of a timepiece is moving around, lifelike, whistling, it's really incredible. So I think the Swatch Group, by bringing back this historic brand, which is now, let's say it's only 20 years old, but if you look at the entire history of the brand, it's a 300-year-old company. They basically started the brand again. So, you know, the future is looking very bright for us, and we have a lot of very creative and beautiful timepieces, as well as pieces of art. You know, in terms of, we were talking a little bit about what do I love about the brand. I think that there was something very special about Jaquet Droz, and I'm going to pull up my card to show you. So anybody who doesn't know the logo, there are the two stars, and the two stars symbolize that father-son relationship. I worked with my father when I was younger, and all, you know, basically until I started getting into my own stuff. But I thought that there was something really special about that relationship. And, you know, with Father's Day right around the corner, I thought, you know, it's such a great opportunity to talk about this being an opportunity to gift the watch to your father or gift the watch to your son, simply because of that relationship of Pierre and Henri Jaquet Droz.
Right. No, I agree. You know, all of these brands have a great story, and specifically, I love that if they've taken the history and really made it meaningful. And so it's just a little piece of knowledge what those two stars mean on your logo that most people wouldn't know. So it's just a nice little tidbit to know that history and the father and son and the connection, for sure. And, you know, who wouldn't want a fantastic timepiece for Father's Day? And there's a big range of options.
Absolutely. You know, talking about the range, you know, you have some, you know, entry-level pieces, and then you have some of the unique one-off pieces. So yeah. There's something for everybody. And then you know, we talked about also the personalization of watches. Right. You have the ability to personalize a watch, and I think that, you know, if you go to our website, jaquetdroz.com, you could actually go and you could take a look at some of the examples that have been created out there. But it doesn't explode the cost. It doesn't have to be something that takes years to make. Small little designs, and I think that that's something so beautiful about a watch brand that could take an idea that you have and collaborate with the person who's going to be wearing the watch and say, okay, we're going to put your design together with our team. We're going to create a one-off piece, and that's something that's really special.
Absolutely, and we'll talk a little bit more about the different stone dials and those options. But let's get into
show us what you have.
What?
Show us what you have.
Yeah,
I think you have a couple
of
pieces.
The watches that we have here. So we talked about the history, and of course, the iconic watch from Jaquet Droz is the Grand Second. And if I'm not mistaken, that first appeared in 1785. Am I correct in that?
I believe you're correct, but I'll fact check while you're.
So the Grand Second, and so one of the watches that I have currently in the store, it's a limited edition of 88 pieces, and of course the connection with China, having set up one of the first watch brands from Switzerland to actually set up a manufacturer in China. 8 is a very lucky number for China, and the Grand Second has the view of an 8, and we got to get the right angle here so we can actually see the dial here. There we go. It's kind of tough with the lighting here, but what you can see, so this is a yellow gold limited edition of the Grand Second with the enamel dial. And it's limited to 88 watches, and it is yellow gold, which is kind of rare. You don't see yellow gold that much, that often, but this is a real iconic watch. It's 43 millimeters, and that glass enamel dial, what it takes to make that is there's a lot of breakage, and it might take 8 tries or 10 tries to get one good dial. So it's very labor intensive to get this art form. And when you see it in person, what's amazing about these enamel dials is that if you sometimes you'll see a pocket watch from 100 years ago, and yet that beautiful enamel color, that beautiful white, and the depth and the luster of the dial, it doesn't fade over time. That's the beauty of enamel, and Jaquet Droz, that's one of their specialties. Anything that you want to share with us about enamel dials that you've learned from visiting the manufacturer or anything, Claudio?
Well, the entire process, and you could talk about, we could even jump to another subject like the Pioneer enamels, but yeah, what it comes down to, it's an art form. It's something that is done by hand. It's not something that's created by a machine. And the process, like you said, it's labor intensive. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. There are a lot of times, you have to, the failure rate of the dial is quite high. So I think that that's why a lot of brands sort of stay away from that. But as you said, something that was made several hundred years ago today looks looks as good today as it did, when it first came out, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, it's if you look at so then another variation of the Grand Second is this. We have a meteorite dial here, and again, you can see. So one of the specialties of Jaquet Droz is our stone dials, and so we're probably all familiar with meteorite. It's an actual slice of meteorite, and has a beautiful texture to it. It's a very cool kind of grayish color, and this watch particularly, it has the outer has meteorite, and the inner dials are mother of pearl. So it's really beautiful, really special. And again, you have 2 different stones on this dial. It's the traditional 43 millimeter Grand Second case, and again, this is just another variation. There are many different takes on the Grand Second, and you can see that on jaquetdroz.com. So that's
the meteorite. Yeah, if you talk about the meteorites, I mean, this was something that is, tens of thousands of years old, and all of them are unique because the striations and the way that it's cut. I mean, no 2 are alike. So that in itself, if you have a meteorite dial from Jaquet Droz, I mean, you could compare it to another one. They're not going to look the same if you really study it. So I mean, I've always been a fan of meteorite dials, and a piece that large, it's very difficult to come by, and also at the same time, aesthetically, it has to look good because you're putting on a dial. So really beautiful stuff. Minerals, that's one of the, we talk about the 8 codes of Jaquet Droz, and minerals are one of them. I mean, we use and we find a lot of unique minerals and stones out there, and the difficulty to turn them into dials, because what you're doing is you're shrinking them down to 0.8 millimeters, and to put on a dial, and you also have to make sure that the dial doesn't crack, and they're quite expensive too. So finding the dials is not just like painting a color and saying you're done. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it: sourcing it, finding it, cutting it down, and all the labor intensive work that goes into it.
Yeah, I recall we had here one time a piece unique, and it was a Grand Second with a zebra jasper dial. Zebra jasper is some kind of a very exotic stone, and it really does. It has like zebra stripes. It's black and white. It's textured and really beautiful. And the client who purchased it is a longtime friend of ours here, and he still loves that watch. He wears it regularly. He's had it for years, and it's really special because it literally says on the case back, "Piece unique." And that's what's special when you talk about customization, when you talk about stone dials. That's an option with Jaquet Droz. So if there's a specific stone that you like, I believe that you can actually have Jaquet Droz make you a dial using that stone, right?
Absolutely. I mean, look, you know, we can't do everything, but within reason. You know, as I said before, we can customize timepieces, whether it's the dials, and I think that that's a major part of it. So, you know, this is something that any of your customers can contact you, and you know, we could all work together. And I think that's really special because there are so many brands that just mass produce watches, and you know, if you look on one wrist, it's the same as the next wrist. You're not going to get that with our brand. And you know, we understand that we're not trying to be on everybody's wrist, but this is a really special piece. And as I said, I was happy to discuss and go on Instagram Live with you today because I really wanted to talk about the specialty of giving this watch to a father or a son, because of the fact that it's so special, right? You're not ever going to see somebody wearing that same watch. I mean, I've been wearing this watch now. Okay, I've been quarantined, but I've been wearing this watch now for 4 months. I haven't seen anybody, you know, wear one. So I think that that's something also really special. And if somebody's looking for a unique piece, you know, Jaquet Droz is a really great brand to find, you know, a buried treasure, something really special.
Right. So another option here we have, which is not an enamel dial, is this the Grand Second moon phase. So what you have is your Grand Second dial, but inset you have a moon phase, and the moon has a beautiful texture to it, with a sort of a blue background with a dark night in it. And you have, not only you have your hours and minutes and your moon phase and your sweep seconds, but you have a pointer date. So that's a unique way of showing the moon phase. And as a complication, I really like the idea of a pointer date just because you can see spatially where you are within the month. So I think that's kind of a nice option as well. And this is stainless steel. Again, not everything is gold and not everything is super high end. There's a range here. So this is another nice option that we have here in the store. And then we can go back to what Claudio showed you, and what I chose to wear today for this event is the skeleton one, but this is the full ceramic. There's no gold on this. It's the full ceramic, and this is the 41 millimeter case size. And so for me, it's a perfect size, and the ceramic. So if you do come by the store to visit, you try this on, you'll see it's amazing to wear because it's super light and comfortable. And Claudio, I believe now the brand has moved also into more options within the 41 millimeter case size.
Very true. So recently, Jack Forster from Hodinkee, he tagged the new Grand Second Quintième as the reaching for the Goldilocks zone, and I thought that was such a great line, because the 41 millimeter for Jaquet Droz, it really wears. If you don't like big watches and you think 41 is too big, the 41 that we've come out with really wears like a 39, simply because the bezel itself, it's not very big. It's all dial. So we've now come out with 7 new Grand Second Quintièmes. We also came out with a new scalp.
I have a 6 3/4 inch wrist, and you can see. I mean, it sits beautifully.
And so the point, as you said, 41s. We also came out with a new ceramic 41 as well. We also came out with four stainless versions, 3 red gold versions, all really beautiful. And anybody on here who's a fan of Hodinkee or goes onto the website, check it out. We have a really great article detailing all the different style, color, metal variations that we come out with.
Yeah, yeah. There's some really cool color variations. There's a really great, like, medium gray with blue markers and blue numbers and blue accents. That watch doesn't look like anything I've seen before, and it's really a really cool kind of a modern take on the Grand Second.
I know when I saw that piece, and I was pretty new to the company. I told our CEO, I said, this is going to be the hit of the year. But then I look at every watch and I think that they're all going to be hits. But really, that color combination, I don't know why it works so well, but it's a lot of people have been gravitating to it. They think it's just a really exceptionally looking watch. Also the straps. We make a classic watch, yet these watches look and feel sporty. For some reason, they come off as sporty. So you get the best of both worlds. It could be a dress watch, but it can also be a t-shirt and jean type of watch as well. And I think that's, that's kind of what a lot of our customers are looking for these days. People are going into this sportier look. People are wearing less and less suits. So we now have sort of moved a little bit into that area. Although we do also have a specific line dedicated for sports watches, which is the SW, and that in itself is a very it's a very cool looking line, which is not very well known, but if you're looking for a straight up sports watch, we also offer that.
Nice. So one of the specialties that we touched a little bit about is Pioneer. And from the beginning, when I was first introduced to this brand, it fascinated me because the workmanship of the dials of these Pioneer dial watches, it's unlike anything else. And there was just recently an article. So we have this one here, and this is a brand new watch from Jaquet Droz. This is the Fleur de Lis Pioneer. And those little gold pieces, what the process to make this dial, you have enamel, which is hard enough as it is to do. And then each little tiny gold piece, first of all, those tiny gold pieces are produced and cut by hand. Mm-hmm. Then they are placed by hand, one by one, in this beautiful pattern, which has to be perfect. And then there's another layer of clear enamel that is put on top and solidifies. So this color will never fade. They will never move, and it will stay always looking this beautiful. But what it takes to produce something like this is just the patience and the skill and craftsmanship that a watchmaker has to, or a dial maker has to have to make this is just mind-blowing. Did they teach you a little bit about this in Switzerland or talk about it? Because it's really incredible.
Well, I think that Pioneer is such a big part of what we do, and we're kind of keeping the tradition alive by making these Pioneer watches. Not only is it a beautiful piece, I mean, that's not a stamped dial. You talk about something that has to be so precise, one small mistake and you're starting from scratch. You're taking delicate foils and you're creating a design, and then you're placing it, and all of this is done by a very skilled worker who is, there's not too many people that can do it, and that's why the art of Pioneer enamel has been abandoned. It's just like nobody wants to take on the burden. It's extremely expensive. The loss rate on the dials. So we're actually, by doing this, we're keeping the tradition alive, and I think that's something that's really nice. And look, we only have 8 of them. So the piece that's in your hands, we only are going to make 8 for the world, and that's the beautiful Fleur de Lis, and that's it. And that's probably going to be the only one that comes in the States. So I think that there's something really special about the design, and also the ability to have a piece like this in your collection, whether you're going to wear it or you're going to just add it to one of your specialty pieces. I mean, you can't get much better than that.
Agreed. I mean, we have a handful of clients who have purchased different variations of the Pioneer pieces over the years, and they continue to be their favorites. And I mean, they don't look like anything else. And to my knowledge, Jaquet Droz is the only brand that is doing this, right?
I mean, if I say yes, and somebody finds another company,
Right.
I'm going to look foolish. But
Right.
I would say that we are definitely, if not the only one of the very few that still does this. And when I visited the manufacturer, when I first joined the company a couple of months ago, I saw this beautiful wall of enamel. It looked like my daughter's crayon box, because they had every color imaginable in these little glass vials, along with 24 karat gold to make the Pioneers. And it was something that was really it caught my eye, and I was impressed with it. So when you make those enamel dials, or when you make the Pioneer, you're essentially creating it from these minerals and turning it into what you have in your hands. And of course it could be recreated by a machine, but the fact of the matter is, this exact process, the art of making this, there are very few people in the world that can actually do what we do, and so it's highly impressive.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I mean, we've covered a lot of ground here, and I hope everyone learned something. And I think the biggest thing is to know a little bit of the depth. And Jaquet Droz, there's a lot of stories to tell. There's a huge depth of skill and different variety of watches. It's not just a 43 millimeter gold dress watch with an enamel dial. And so that's why I urge anybody who's watching, who is intrigued, to visit the Jaquet Droz website, visit our website, to really see the breadth of what the brand offers. So even for a very small manufacturer, there are a lot of different references and a lot of different styles. And we didn't even touch on the beautiful ladies' watches that they make. And we have one here with mother of pearl and diamonds, which is really fantastic. So again, I think it's really worth diving deeper into the brand and learning, because it's just a great story and very rare and interesting. And that's one of the things that we love to do here at Manfredi Jewels, is to bring, educate people and bring some of these rarer brands to light, so that people can understand and see, what else is out there besides the usual brands, which we carry. We have over 30 brands, but it's really nice to discover these hidden treasures,
Absolutely. And I'll double down, and if there's anybody that's watching this show, please reach out to Rob. And if there's some pieces that, especially some of the specialty pieces that you see on our website that maybe we don't have in your store, I'd be happy to personally bring them down myself and kind of show you in person, some of the pieces that may not be available. But you have a great selection of timepieces. As I said, if anybody out there is thinking of a great Father's Day gift, this has a great story behind it. Our tagline is, some watches tell time, and we tell a story. So, I definitely, this watch brand tells a story that I think is goes above and beyond just wearing a timepiece that that tells time. So, call us, comment, email Rob. Do some homework. Let us know what you like, what you want to see, and we'll be happy to come down to your store. And hopefully, if this was successful, we'll be able to host a couple of other ones in the future where we can talk about specific topics like the automaton and some of the ladies' pieces that you discussed earlier, like the Lady 8, which is it's basically jewelry on your wrist with that tells time.
Absolutely. We would love that. And just knowing that now we are, full swing, open our regular hours, Tuesday through Friday, 10 to 5, Saturdays, 10 to 5:30. We're closed on Sundays and Mondays. And we're here. We have, if you just come, wear a mask, and we're here in the store. And I'm sure Claudio also would be happy to get out, because he's been quarantining as well. So he'd be happy to get out and meet us and bring some watches as well to show. So we're available for that. So thank you all for joining us today. It was a lot of fun. And we will try to continue to do these. We'll figure out some other stories to tell here on Instagram Live. And I thank you so much, Claudio. This was a lot of fun.
Hey, I think you're on your way to Hollywood. You got a lot of fans out there saying that you should make a series, so I support it. I'd like to see you on Instagram Live or even a YouTube channel, as long as we get to come back as your guest again. But thanks for everything.
Absolutely.
I wish everybody a wonderful day. Happy Father's Day, and to all the dads out there, including myself. And we'll see you soon. All the best. Give my best to the staff.
I will. Thanks, Claudio. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Take care, my friend.
Bye-bye.